Okay, so I'm just going to cover quickly how to set up a character sheet for Roll20 when you are playing D&D 5th edition. Now we're using the shaped character sheet, and that is something that the Dungeon Master would set up. It's pretty awesome. It does most of the things for you, and it integrates quite nicely with the compendium, which I'll show you a bit later. Now, to demonstrate a few of these things, I will be creating a halfling ranger. And to do that, first of all, you go to the top here, above class and level, click add, select ranger, and you will see everything kind of gets populated for you. You can see you're a ranger, level 1, you have a D10 hit die, and you can cast up to 1st level spells. Secondly, just type in halfling here and above race, and make your size small. Now, it doesn't automatically populate halfling things or information for you, so that you will have to do by yourself. However, once you've selected Ranger, you would see that you have automatically been set to have proficiency in strength saving throws and dexterity saving throws. These are indicated by these two dots being ticked. Now, other than that, we're a halfling, so here under speed we will enter 25, and then we will move on to attributes. Now, depending on how you roll attributes or how you set up your attributes, it'll depend what you can put in here. However, let's just say you've already set up your attributes. We can start entering them in. So you will see here's the number at the bottom in the circle or the oval, and let's just say my halfling has 10 strength, it has 16 dex, 14 constitution. It's not a very smart halfling, so let's give it 8 intelligence, another 14 for wisdom, and another 12 for charisma. As you enter your stats, you will see immediately your bonuses are calculated. You will also see that your saving throws get updated. All your skill checks get updated. And since we haven't set up any armor yet, you will see that your armor class is 13. Your initiative, which is based off of dex, is +3. So now let's set up our HP, which would be here in the heart. Now, a level 1 character takes the maximum of the hit die, which would be 10 on a D10, and add the constitution bonus, which is +2. That means we start off with 12 HP. Also, you will see an M here at the bottom. You add 12 in there because that is your maximum hit points. So now we've set up the quick basics. We have our attributes. We've set up our HP and all that. Now we need to set up our skills. So each class and background would specify something regarding which of the skills you can pick, and this is where this information you would normally find in your player's handbook or any of the expansions. However, Roll20 has something called the compendium, which is this I here at the top. Now it contains a lot of information that you would find in your D&D readings. However, it isn't fully complete since it's based off of a free, publicly available publication by Wizards of the Coast, and therefore not all the details are in here. However, let's say we want to find something, we want to find some stuff for the Ranger class. So you come in here, type in Ranger, and here you'll see under Class, Ranger, open it up, and you'll get a window showing you all your Ranger information. So if you look here, it'll list out your starting proficiencies. Now we see here that armor and weapons specifically just indicates that you can actually use those. So for example, we can use light armor, medium armor and shields. However, the Ranger does not have access to using heavy armor. Also, they have access to use any simple weapons and martial weapons. Now, if you play with exotic weapons, then obviously the Ranger wouldn't be able to use those. We don't have any tool proficiencies. However, we get here where it says that we have 3 skill proficiencies, and we have to choose them from the following list. Now, let's say for my Ranger, we will take animal handling, perception, and survival. So what you want to do is go back to your sheet, and next to animal handling, there's a dot. Click on it. You go to perception, click on it, and go to survival, and click on it. So now we've indicated that we have proficiency in these 3 skills. What that means gameplay wise is that you will notice here is something called a proficiency bonus, and that value gets added onto any skill checks we do. Now, something interesting about a halfling is that a halfling gets a racial ability called halfling luck. If you want to see more about that, go back to your compendium, type in halfling, and you can open it up, read more about the halfling, and you will see it has lucky. And that basically says that when you roll a 1 on a d20 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the die and use the new roll. Now, how do we indicate that we have this luck on our sheet? You will see in the bottom right-hand corner we have something called racial traits, and halfling luck is one of these traits. So simply click on it, it'll turn into green, and that now means that we have activated the halfling luck ability. So automatically whenever you do a roll, it will include that option to re-roll a 1 for those 3 circumstances. You will also see that it has already automatically selected the 2 level 1 starting features we get for a Ranger. Now, what that means is if you go back to your Ranger page, you will see that a Ranger gets a couple of abilities at first level. First of all, it gets something called favored enemy, and secondly, it also gets Natural Explorer. And what's wonderful about the sheet is, since we selected level 1 ranger, it has already populated this information for us. So here we can see, if we click on this gear item, it'll expand the information and it will have all the text for that ability already added. Click again and it will minimize. Now we are almost done. The only other thing we need to do for our character setup is to create our items that we start with. So here's our starting equipment. You will see that a ranger can either choose scale mail or the leather armor, 2 short swords or 2 simple melee weapons. It can choose either a dungeoneer's pack or an explorer's pack, and it starts with a longbow and 20 arrows. Now, setting this up in the character sheet is not too difficult. However, this is where there's another nice feature about using the compendium. You can go and search for, let's say, scale mail. Our dex bonus isn't amazing, so we will probably have a higher armor class using scale mail rather than leather armor. So we type in scale mail, and here's the one we can start with, scale mail here. Now this is nice because you can simply hover over the name and click and drag it onto the character sheet, and you will see here under armor it has automatically added scale mail to our list, and you will see in the armor class it has already updated our armor to be 16. So that's quite nice. Once again, the gear item will immediately expand and give you information about scale mail. Now we need to set up our weapons. So we start with 2 short swords. Once again, we can come in here, type in short sword, and do the same thing. Hover over the name, drag it, drop it, and you will see here above offense there is now a short sword. If we expand it, you can see stats about it. You can see that we get +5 on our attacks. That +5 is made up of the fact that we are proficient in the item, and it has a feature called finesse, which means that we can use either our dex bonus or our strength bonus to attack, and this page will automatically use the one with the higher bonus. And it gives us some more information. Here you can see we have a crit range of 20, which means we have to roll a 20 to crit. And here is our damage output, 1d6 plus our modifier, either +3 for dex or +0 for strength. Once again, it'll get calculated automatically. Now we also have a longbow, so we will go search for longbow here and click and drag, and there's our longbow. You will also see we now have this entry above ammo to indicate that we have 20 arrows. And lastly, we can choose either a dungeoneering pack or an explorer's pack. Now let's choose an explorer's pack. There we go. Once again, click and drag, and Here under equipment, we will have an explorer's pack added. You can click the gear. You can see it doesn't have too much information visible, but I'll show you soon how to actually see what's happening there. So now we've set up our character and we are ready to go. Now you'll notice something. I've been doing this, and all the time this pencil here was highlighted in yellow. As soon as I click it and it goes gray, you'll see a bunch of text appearing and so forth, but our values that we have been manipulating has now been locked. We cannot edit the page anymore, and we will now be using the page. If you want to change something again, you just click on the pencil and we can start editing our page further. If you're done, once again click it and you are back to using your page. So what happens when you're using your page? If you go to the first one, the chat window here on the right, you will see that when you click on one of these skills, it will show you information on them as such. We've clicked on favorite enemy and it gives you an explanation of what favorite enemy is. Similar to that, if you click on the Explorer's Pack item, it'll give you a description of the Explorer's Pack and list what's all in it. Now for something like our offense or our weapons, instead of showing information about it, as soon as you click on it, it will actually do an attack. So here you can see with my short sword, I rolled a 21 to hit, and if that hits, I will do 7 damage. If you hover over these numbers, you can see the actual rolls that were done to get to that value. But you don't really have to worry about it too much. So that's setting up our character. Now let's delve into spells. So a level 2 ranger would get access to some spells. So we've leveled up our ranger, put level 2 here, and now you will see all of a sudden there's another section to the page with more information. You'll see wisdom ability. This means that all spells a ranger casts make use of wisdom as their primary ability to calculate both their attack and their save DC, which is also given here. Our save DC is 12, so any spell that requires a creature to make a save against a spell of ours will have to match or beat a 12. And we get +4 attack. So any spell of ours that says make a ranged attack or make a melee spell attack will use +4. So we have all that information. Now, setting up a spell, how do we do that? So you'll see we've been working with character here. We can also click on spells, which will basically open something like a spell book for us. Now, once again, we can go to the compendium and we can see what all the ranger spells are that we can pick. So here you can see ranger spells by level. As you can see here, there's a 1. This means we only have access to level 1 spells, and we only have 2 usages of this spell for every long rest. We can click here on ranger spells per level, and this should give us a list of all the spells we can choose. Here's all our level 1 spells. alarm, animal friendship, cure wounds, detect magic, poison, and you can go through this list up until here. So anything from animal messenger onwards we can't choose yet because it is a level 2 spell. Now normally it depends on your party setup, but one of your best spells to have as a ranger would be Hunter's Mark, simply because this allows you to increase the damage you deal. We've searched for Hunter in the compendium. Under spells we find Hunter's Mark, and once again, just like with our weapons and our armor, we can click and drag the spell and you will see that Hunter's Mark has now appeared in our spellbook. Now let's say that we don't have a dedicated healer, so our ranger should be able to pick up some healing. We also decide to pick Cure Wounds. Once again, in the compendium, search for Cure Wounds. There is the spell and drag it on. So now we have completed our spellbook. And you will see under character, once again, we have a nice view or quick access to our 2 spells that we chose. Lock your sheet again by clicking on the pencil, and now you can click the spell and it will be cast. Here you can see it will give you information about the spell. Let's say something like Cure Wounds, where you actually do a roll when you cast it. If you click it, you will see that it already does the roll for you. And here we have healed someone for 10 HP. And that is how spells work. Now, once again, as I said, the compendium isn't complete. So there are some spells that aren't in the compendium. Something like Vicious Mockery, I believe. Oh, that's there. Dissonant Whispers is a level 1 spell that bards get, for example, and you can see that it is not in this list. So that is the next thing we will address: how to make custom entries into this sheet. Now, first of all, we go back to editing the sheet. And for spells, it'll work exactly the same way as for anything else. But instead of clicking and dragging from the compendium, we can now customize our sheet. Under Offense, we are going to add a new attack. This attack is going to be our normal attack, but it's automatically going to add our Hunter's Mark damage to it. So we just type in here short sword and do Hunter's Mark. So I just add HM in brackets to indicate that it's a Hunter's Mark. We select that it is an attack. It's a melee weapon attack. We get +2 at the moment because it's proficiency. However, because it's a short sword, we don't use strength to roll, but we use finesse. So we select finesse. Reach is once again 5 feet because it's a melee weapon. Now we need to do our damage. So our damage is 1. We select the die roll, d6, plus finesse. And then this would be piercing. And now you see there's a second damage here. So we are going to add another damage section, because Hunter's Mark deals an extra, let's just see here, an extra 1d6 damage to the target when you hit it with an attack. So we are going to add 1d6, and this would also be piercing damage. And there we have set up our Hunter's Mark short sword. So let's see what that looks like. We click on it, and here you can see that we have rolled a 22 to hit for our Hunter's Mark, and here we get 9 piercing damage from our attack, and another 6 piercing damage from our Hunter's Mark. And that is pretty much how you set up your character sheet. There are a lot of other nice things you can play with, but this is the basics and how you go about setting up your character. I hope this is useful and that you can continue using it going forward. Cheers.